Woo-hoo-hoo. And we're live once again on another Tuesday. And I have a new guest and friend in the house today. I have Terry Whalin, who is coming in from California, luckily not Los Angeles, south of Los Angeles. So Terry is with me today, and we're just going to welcome Terry to the show, and welcome for being here today, Terry. We're so glad you came. And we're going to be talking about essential publishing myths authors need to know. And this is actually based on a book that Terry has out, and it's fabulous. I've read it. And so, Terry, before we get stuck in, can you please introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you do?
Yeah, Gillian, I very much appreciate this opportunity. I've been a writer for years. My first book was a little children's book that I did in 1992 called When I Grow Up, I Can Go Anywhere for Jesus. And since then, I've written more than 60 books for traditional publishers. Two of the books that I've written got six-figure advances. I've done a couple of my books have sold over 100,000 copies. I'm currently working as an acquisitions editor at Morgan James Publishing. I've been there for 12 years. It's actually my third publisher that I'm working with in the acquisitions area. So I've worked with hundreds of authors over the years. I've also written for more than 50 magazines through the years as well.
Wow, wow, wow. So let me start with defining terms. So acquisitions editor, what exactly does that mean for us who are learning about the publishing industry?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Basically, I'm a hunter or gatherer, I guess is what I tell people. I'm the often the very first person that within the publishing house that will see the submission that you send to them. I'm look at it. I see if it's going to be a good fit for our publishing house, and then if so, I explore that more with the author and talk with them. I'm also the person that pitches that internally to try to get a book contract for the author. And then if I get that contract, I negotiate that contract with the author or the literary agent. So I'm very focused on the front end of the process.
Love it. Love it. So you're basically the gatekeeper. You're the first person we have to get to in order to talk to somebody. And so can you just kind of I know what a literary agent is. Maybe you can even explain that for people, because that might be a term people don't know. And is that necessary? How necessary is a literary agent?
Well, it depends on the publisher you want to reach, I guess. Literary agents are a very important part of the process. I tried to be a literary agent for a while. I was for several years. I had a little literary agency, but basically a literary agent is that go-between between the author and the publisher. The literary agent shops your proposal to publishers, shops your manuscript if you've written fiction, and really tries to get that publishing deal for you. What literary agents will not tell you is that they don't sell everything that they're shopping. And you may have to figure out what you're going to do with that material that you wanted a literary agent to sell for you. But they're very important players in the business. I usually tell people that it's important to know as many people in this business as you can, because who you know is often as important or even more important than what you know at the end of the day.
Hence why LinkedIn might be a good place to start for any aspiring authors, because you're building those connections, you're building those relationships, and you got to get to know people and, kind of do some good work, getting those connections and building that author platform.
Well, LinkedIn's a very important place. That's why I have over 19,400 connections on LinkedIn, because people, when they change a lot in publishing, but normally they take their LinkedIn account with them. So that's always a way that you can reach people, even if they've swapped chairs.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So you're a prolific author. you have all this experience in the publishing industry, which like really gives you a unique perspective of, you can kind of see both sides of the desk, of the wall. And so with your book here, The 10 Publishing Myths, can I ask you, first of all, what inspired you to write this book in the first place? Because I always love to hear the story behind the story.
Yeah, I wrote this book because I often talk to authors about their expectations, their dreams, their desires of what's going to happen with their book. And what I find over and over is that those expectations are totally unrealistic as far as what they think is actually going to happen. From my experience in publishing, so much of the process is totally outside of anything that we can control as authors. And so part of the purpose of my book was to help people have more realistic expectations, but also to understand that there are some practical things that they can actually do outside of whatever their publisher's doing for them.
Very good. Very good. I like that. I like that. So I think it was myth number 1 and myth number 3 kind of go together, that a book is not going to make you rich, money, and it's going to not necessarily make you famous. So if you kind of take out those 2 dreams, because I think we all want to be the next, I don't know, Brene Brown or something like that.
Sure.
That's what I want to be, whatever. It's like, if it's not realistic to be rich and famous, then if you turn the table on that, why bother, in your opinion, why bother writing a book at all then?
Well, you write a book for a number of different reasons. It gives you authority. It gives you a platform. It gives you the ability to go out and speak about that book. Maybe you speak at your local chamber of commerce or the Rotary Group or wherever, but it opens doors that you normally wouldn't have in your life if you have a book. So it's a very important process.
I love that. I love that. And I agree with you 100%, because I think to me, it's like a business card on steroids. Like, it gives you so much authority and credibility. And it's like, it just gives an extra check to everything you do. People, I think we value books, or especially if we're readers, because we grew up, it's like, I grew up in an era where it's like books were amazing. Like, the fact that you have books, you don't just throw those away. You may throw away a business card, but you don't throw away a book. So I think books just show so much dedication. They show your thought leadership, just so many great things. But I agree with you. The money is not going to make you instantly famous, and you're not going to, don't quit your day job either. So to speak. So let me ask you, you talk about traditional publishers. One of the myths is, traditional publishers are going to take care of your marketing for you. And marketing is huge, a part of what I do. I've been doing marketing for years. And I think that is probably the biggest myth, after the money and the fame, that like, oh, I'll just get a book contract, and then I can just like now go to Hawaii and drink pina coladas all day while they're like pushing my book and getting me, all sorts of different things, and wait for my movie contract. So from a traditional publisher's standpoint, can you tell me about what is involved with the marketing for a book?
Yeah, well, it's different for every publisher, and they often will not put any of that information into their contract because they don't want anybody to hold their feet to the fire on those kinds of things. I've been promised all kinds of things from publishers that they do not deliver on. So that's another part of the reason, really, that I wrote this book. I had my own wake up moment in this area. In 2007, I was a literary agent. I was running a little literary agency in Scottsdale, Arizona. And Mark Victor Hansen, the co-author on Chicken Soup for the Soul, invited me to come out to Los Angeles. He was having this big mega book marketing university. There were 400 people there. I took pitches from people while I was there, but I also sat there and listened to all the speakers. We had big notebooks and we took all kinds of notes and everything. At that point in my life, I'd written about 50 books for traditional publishers. They were making great books. They were getting them in the bookstore. They were pretty books. All that kind of thing was happening. But publishers will send you a statement once a year, maybe quarterly, about how your book is doing financially. All of mine were in the negative category. I was not making money on my book. And I couldn't figure out what was I not doing that I should be doing. And so during this event, it was almost like I woke up and I understood how little I was doing to promote my own book. Back then I had a terrywhalin.com website. That's all I was doing. One of the speakers at this event was the other co-author on Chicken Soup for the Soul, Jack Canfield. And Jack has written this book called The Success Principles. About what does it take to be successful out there? It's a best-selling book. Get it from your library if you've never really seen that book. But the very first success principle says that I will take 100% responsibility for my own success. Now, none of us want to take 100% responsibility. We want somebody else to do it. We want our publisher to do it, our publicist, our editor, somebody, please, other than us. But I decided during this event that I was going to take 100% responsibility for my own success. So I started blogging. My blog has over 1,700 entries in it now. They say there's over 600 million blogs. And about a year ago, I found an article that said that I was one of the top 27 content producers out there, along with Seth Godin and Ryan Holiday and people like that. And it's because of the huge volume of stuff that I have. And I'm like clockwork. I blog every week, and my blog goes out to a bunch of people, and people read it. When social media came along, I started doing that. I'm doing podcasts now. I've done radio things. I've done all kinds of things to take my own responsibility. And, even people forget, even those co-authors on Chicken Soup for the Soul, Jack and Mark, they were rejected over 160 times before they got their book published. They finally found a little publisher in Florida that was going to publish their book. And they told their publisher they were going to sell 1 million copies in the first year. Their publisher laughed at them because at that point in their life, they'd never sold 1 million copies of anything. These guys got up every day and they decided they were going to follow what they called the rule of 5. They got up every day and they did 5 things to tell people about their book. They did a guest blog post. They did a podcast, a radio show, a book signing, a newspaper article, something to tell people about their book. It took them 1.5 years to sell their first 1 million books. And now that series of books is one of the most prolific in the English language. But it certainly didn't start that way. And that's what people forget. They want that instant success, and it just doesn't happen instantly.
I love that. That reminds me of the image of like an iceberg where people just see the top of the iceberg, but they don't see everything below. So it's like they just go, oh, Chicken Soup for the Soul. Those guys, they were an overnight success. No, they weren't. They were, it took them a while, and they did all of these things to make it happen. Whereas other people, I think, even especially with self-publishers, when we get our book up on Amazon, we think, well, we're done now. Everybody's going to just go buy my book. And it's like, no, because tomorrow nobody even remembers you have a book. You have to keep.
Yeah, well, they've pretty much proven out there that people have to hear about our book, 7, 8, a dozen times before they actually reach into their wallet and buy it from you. So part of the whole social media process and what we're doing in that process is really stressing the benefits in our book and telling people about it so that eventually they'll go, oh yeah, 10 publishing myths. I should get that book. That would really help me to do that. So I think that's part of the process. I mean, Robert Cialdini, the American psychologist, wrote the book Influence. He has said that 98% of the people that buy a product online have read a review before they buy that product. Well, I go by authors' websites all the time, and maybe they have 1 or 2 reviews. They just don't work at those reviews because they really don't understand how important they are and how people are making buying decisions every day because they're reading a review online and they're saying, oh, I guess I should buy that book.
Exactly. Social proof. Social proof is so important. And, we do that. We do that when I go to look for a restaurant, online. I'll look at it. And if it doesn't have any reviews, why do I want to go eat there? It's the same with a book. If I go to Amazon and there's no reviews for a book, you just kind of go, maybe I'll look for a different one. And, social proof is everything. So
I've
love
really
that.
tried to make it easy for people to get my book. If they go to publishingoffer.com, that'll take you to a place where you can get my book for like $10, including the shipping, along with over $200 worth of bonuses. So I really want people to get this because it's not a long book, but yet it really helps people sort of understand the proactive steps that they can really take to be successful with their book, no matter where they publish it. If they self-publish it, if they traditional go with a hybrid, whatever it is they're doing.
Right. That's good. That's good. Okay. So I want to hop over, speaking of people, I want to hop over and check out some of our people who are joining us today and see if anybody has any questions. So we have Jeff Young, who's always in the front row. He's here to watch some of the Mythbusters. So thank you for joining us today, Jeff. We have, and he's on both sides, and I love it. He always checks my YouTube and LinkedIn for me, making sure I'm on both platforms. David Cause is here today. Good afternoon. He's coming in from Texas, like me. Pamela says hello. And we have John Asperian over in the UK joining you via the YouTube live chat. Hello, both. Haven't come across Terry before. So it's great. I love these lives because they open up and my audience gets to meet new people and my guests get to meet my audience. So it's really great when we can have that. And John is a published author and he has written a book over in England. David says, hello, Terry. Welcome. 60 books. Wow. So you've really nailed it with that one. It's like, people are like, wow, that's amazing. Who network, important any walk of life. It's so true. It's so true. And maybe I can ask you, Terry, when you're talking as a traditional, like when you got your acquisitions editor hat back on, and you're looking at a possible author to bring in and they're pitching their book, them or their literary agent, do you go and look at their ability to actually sell that book? Like, do you look at their author platform? Do they have to have a proposal of here's what I will do to promote my book? Or do you just look at the book itself?
It depends on what I get. I do try to, I read their proposal. I do look at their website, their connections, all those kinds of things are an important part of the overall process. And, people need to know, when you read these books, manuscripts or proposal or whatever it is, don't bury your good stuff, over in chapter 5, because that editor may never get there. I read the first page, and if it's a good page, I read the next page, or a good sentence, I read the next sentence. I mean, start off with a bang and, keep going is what I always encourage people to do.
I like that. That's a great answer. Book offers tremendous professional credibility. So we have a lot of people who agree that a book really does set you apart in your business. It's very nice. He's already saying you're already an authority in my opinion. So that's kind of sweet, Jeff. And they appreciate that and loves Jack Canfield. So yeah, it's like those Chicken Soup for the Soul books. Those are amazing. And I think they've been translated into so many different languages as well. So it's like they kind of got like I used to read those books when they first came out, and I actually went and did a training with Jack Canfield and got to know him. And I found with those books that it was just such an easy formula because each one was really just a collection of different stories. So it's kind of like they hit on a formula and said, okay, for the dog lover, for the chocolate lover, it was a formula, but it was really, really good. So I love that. So Terry, can you talk about going with a traditional publisher, I think this was one of your myths, talked about, like, if you want to be in a bookstore, you're just going to have a hard time doing that as a self-published author. And I'm raising my hand. I recently did a live talking about the difficulties of being in bookstores and handling the returns and, handling, just everything that goes with the bookstores. But the biggest thing, the stumbling block I see as an independent author, independently published author, is that I don't have a team of salespeople and distributors to get me in the bookstore anyways. So can you talk about how traditional publishers get their books in the bookstore that we probably can't do on our end as self-published?
It's different, but yes, we have a team at Morgan James that does that. And so, and we sell on Amazon. Don't get us wrong. Amazon is a good customer of Morgan James, but they're only 24% of overall business. So what I tell people is this: if they've published only on Amazon, they're missing 76% of what we do for the book out there. Our books are in 98% of the bookstores in North America, including the brick and mortar stores. So, we sell at Target.com as a place that we sell books. And that's really what you want to be as an author. You want to be everywhere your books are. Books are sold, because that's part of what we do. And it's not easy, even for us. But for example, we advise our authors, there's a dirty word in publishing that they should not use. That word is Amazon. Because you can imagine retailers, right or wrong, believe that Amazon has destroyed their business. So they don't want to do anything to promote Amazon. So don't talk about having an Amazon bestseller, because nobody cares about that. Just say you're a best-selling author. Don't talk about how you have 50 Amazon reviews. Just say you have 50 reviews. Just leave that word out in that process.
Wow, that's a golden tip. That's a golden tip with that. Oh, I like that. Yeah, because I think you don't realize that. I know recently I was listening to a podcast, and it was an independent bookstore, and they were talking about authors that they were like giving them a chance to, do a consignment and bring their books in. And they said, okay, we're going to give these self-publishing authors a break. They brought them in, and then they went to the websites of these people, and they were still directing people to go buy on Amazon. And they said they should be directing them to this bookstore. Like, we're trying to help, but it's like, like you said, don't make everything about Amazon, because every other place is competing with Amazon. So you're really hurt, unless you're just on Amazon, then you're totally okay.
Yeah, we advise our authors to share the love, is what we call that. So we want them to, sure, include Amazon, but I want people to go to their local independent bookstore. I want them to go to Barnes & Noble's, Books A Million, any of those kind of places to be able to get my book. And you really want your book out there everywhere, because you never know where somebody's going to buy it at the end of the day.
Exactly. So what about, like, here's one sort of bookstore that I've always kind of wondered about, and that's the airport bookstore. So, like, how do airport, like, it's a really small space, and yet it's obviously going to appeal to people who want, like, basically that airplane read, something that you could quick grab and put on the plane. How do traditional, like, how do you get into airport bookstores? Is that like a special thing?
We do have that is a special place, but we have the ability at Morgan James to get our books into airports. I have authors all over the world, and one of my authors that was in Houston half of the year, and half of the year she lived in Dubai. Her question to me was, "Can you sell books in the Dubai airport?" And so I had no idea. I asked, and yes, we can sell books in the Dubai airport. A couple of years ago, I was going to a conference in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and on the way home, I missed my connection in Philadelphia. I had to spend the whole day in the Philadelphia airport. Now, to sheer boredom, I walked in that airport bookstore to look around, and actually, I've written a biography on Billy Graham that I found in that airport bookstore, because Morgan James had put my book back then in 25 airports, and Philadelphia was one of those bookstores. I'd never seen one of my books inside an airport bookstore, so I thought that was pretty exciting. But it's all possible, but it just depends on that publisher and their connections to be able to sell to, Hudson Newsstands, for example, is a series of stands that are all over the place. Can they sell to those groups, and will they take your book into that market? That's always the question.
I like that. I like that. And I got to ask you, did you feel tempted? Did you want to sign your book in the airport bookstore?
I wanted to sign it, but I didn't sign it, but I did take a picture. They say that's a myth, that if you've signed the book, they can't be returned, because I understand they still can be returned even if you've signed those books. So,
oh, well, that's kind of interesting. That's good to know. That's good to know. So you have a huge platform on LinkedIn, which you either built as an author platform or a publisher platform or a little bit of both. So can you talk about, and maybe give us some advice on what authors should be doing to build an author platform so that they, have a step up before they've maybe even wrote their book or while they're writing their book?
Yeah. I always advise people to make sure you take a careful look at these platforms. So, for example, I don't control LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Those are all what we call rented platforms, because, knowingly or unknowingly, I could violate their terms and get kicked off of those places tomorrow. So, as an author, you want to make sure you build on something that you can protect and you can keep at the end of the day. So that's where you build your blog. That's where you build your website. That's why you have a newsletter list, because those are all things that you control. And that's why in my book, I had a myth buster action at the end of every chapter, MBA. And that was this practical information to help authors know that no matter what your publisher does or doesn't do, there's all kinds of practical things that you can actually take action and do to help you get the word out about your book.
Brilliant. I see that a question came in. So David asks, what questions should an author ask a publisher and what are deal breakers? Like what should they not ask as well? So that's a great question.
When you get a publisher, you want to, one of the things I always encourage people to do is to Google that publisher, put their publisher name in along with the word scam or complaint. Now, none of us are perfect. I mean, all of us have people that don't like us and put stuff out there about us, and it's out there forever, whether it's true or not true. But if you Google some publisher's name along with the word scam or complaints and see pages and pages of complaints, that should be a red flag that maybe that publisher is not the best place for you to do. I always encourage people to talk to their authors, speak to some of their authors and find out about their experiences. We do that at Morgan James. If somebody asks me, I plug them into my authors, let them do that. I've had authors buy a book from that publisher. What does the book look like? Is it a book I want to purchase? I mean, you get some of these books from publishers and they're awful. I mean, they had no idea how to do the back cover. They didn't design a good cover in the front. The interior's all messed up. So really take a careful look at each one of these people and read your contract. That's a simple thing, but you'd be surprised how few of these authors really read and understand their book contract at the end of the day. If you don't understand it, join the Authors Guild, for like $60, and they have a cadre of attorneys that can read your contract and help you with that. Get help. Don't just figure you're on your own, because you're not. You can be connected to a huge community of people if you want to be.
That's brilliant advice. And you really have to do your due diligence on everything. And especially, I love that idea of like checking out the guild to find lawyers, because you might have a lawyer that you use, like, oh, this is the guy that we like use, our family lawyer, but he might not know the specialty of book contracts. And, once you sign, you're stuck.
Well, it's really true. I mean, most of these lawyers had maybe an hour or two of their whole law school, was on literary law. So you want somebody that's really specialized in this category.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're getting down to the end of our. Oh, he says, "Thank you, Terry. Appreciate the answers." So that was nice. Thank you, David. That was nice. So we're getting down to our 30 minutes is done. Is there any final takeaway you'd like to leave us with today, Terry? That you just general advice you'd like to give anybody?
Yeah, I've been in some of the top literary agencies and publishers in New York City, and when I visit those people, and as authors, we get a lot of rejection. We get a lot of people that say no to us, and their client lists are full. They're not taking on anybody else. But what I'd tell you is that each of these people, when I talk to them, are looking for the next bestseller. They're always asking me, where's the next bestseller, Terry? Because they're looking for that diamond in the rough. So they may not be telling you that they're reading their emails and their pitches and their physical mail, but they are, because even though it doesn't seem like it seems like they're ghosting you, they're not really. So be aware that those pitches and those things that you're making are very important, and that'll be profoundly important to you in your own life. And I really do want people to go to publishingoffer.com and take a look at my book and get it.
Awesome. And it's also available on Amazon too, for anybody that wants to go the Amazon route, even though we said we weren't going to say the Amazon word anymore. So there we go.
I also have an 11th myth in there that Alice Kreider, when she, as an acquisitions editor at Cook, when she sent her endorsement back to me, told me I was missing the 11th myth. I'm like, okay, Alice, what's the 11th myth? She says the 11th myth should be that if I send my book to Oprah, she'll book me on her show. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's a pretty good myth. And so what I decided to do is I wrote that chapter. We designed it to look exactly like the rest of the book. And people can get that for free from me if they go to terrylinks.com/11th myth, 11 myth. And that will take them where they can get that totally for free from me.
I love that. Because I dream of being on Oprah. So I'll have to go check that out. I'm sure she's waiting for me. Gillian, come anytime. So I love it. Well, thank you very much for being here today, Terry. Thank you for everybody who's joined us during the live, who's listening during the podcast, who's finding us on YouTube, wherever you are. We appreciate you being here today and listening to us. And we will see you all again next week. Okay. Bye, everybody.